All right, welcome to the Bow Trader Podcast. Whether you're a long-time listener or joining us for the first time, man, I'm glad you're here. My name's John Keene, and I am the founder of Bow Trader, and we're just excited to be able to do this podcast and bring this to you on a weekly basis. You know, on the podcast, we're diving headfirst into the wild world of hunting and the great outdoors. We talk about all kind of different things, whether it's tracking and scouting tactics or just cutting up and telling silly tales and stories about things that we've gotten into when we've been out there trying to do some hunting. But we're always focused on the beauty of God's creation. From gear reviews and how to practice to finally making it to that awesome thwack of fall, buddy, we are here for it. Our faith is woven into every episode with real, down-to-earth discussions because it's not just about the hunt. It's truly about what matters most. So grab your gear, settle in, get you a cup of coffee, and let's get after it. Why are you so weird? Why are you this way?
People like it.
No, they don't. Not one person has commented saying, man, I love hearing Wes open those liquid death cans.
Please comment.
That is an opening to a song. You know what song it is?
I have no idea.
Alan Jackson remade it. Papa Top.
Who originally did that song?
I didn't know that was a remake.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
Oh, well. Not important. All right, let's pray together. Father, we love you, and we thank you for this time together as men to come and to talk about things going on in our lives and the way that you guide us and direct us and just the opportunities you give us, not only to be a part of your will and your purpose for each of our lives, but for the opportunities you give us to be able to get out in creation and enjoy what you have given to us. Lord, we ask you to use our voices this morning to build each other up, to have fun and laughter. God, we thank you for the gift of laughter. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, well, let's do it. So we got good old WC Westchester back on the podcast with us.
Good morning.
Glad to have him.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to talk turkey a little bit. I mean, 'tis the season. Apparently, we're going to talk baseball too because it's definitely baseball season too.
Opening day.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, Thursday, March 27th. It is opening day of baseball season. It's good stuff. Dub's got his liquid death over here. Dr. Death.
Dr. Death.
Oh,
Good.
man.
You tried it the other day. You said you liked it.
It does kind of taste like Dr. Pepper. Pretty good.
It is good.
Yeah. So, all right. So this Saturday, speaking of opening days, this Saturday is where it all happens. I can't wait to hear the stories about people that just kidnapped some kid so they could go hunting this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We talked about it last time. You know, everybody loves kids on youth weekend.
Yeah.
But I've seen some, success stories from youth weekend. We did not have a good youth week. I mean, we weren't successful. We heard some birds, but man, it was cold. And in my experience, turkeys are either fired up if it's cold or they are shut down. And they gobbled good on the roost for us. But I mean, once they got down, it was radio silence.
Yeah, we heard a few after they were down, but they were just blowing up in the tree.
Yeah.
And then when they hit the ground, we heard hens with them and stuff too, but they really shut down after they were out of the tree.
Yep. Well, I mean, we still had a good time. It was fun to be out there. We were, Dub and I, we were walking, just trying to walk and call a little bit and try to see if we could hear anything. And we were walking like back up towards our house and crossed a fire break And as I stepped into the fire break, I saw this black, down the fire break, and I grabbed him and jumped back. I mean, if I saw the bird saw me. Let's be realistic about this. But I said, so we jumped back, and I kind of, got down, started doing a little army crawl back up to the fire break, and I looked down there, and the bird's still there, and I'm like, I mean, let's see, let's try. And so we sat there for about 20 minutes or so, and never could. He wouldn't make a sound, but. If it was a tom, I don't know if it was or not. I mean, when you see something like that, you're like, oh man, it was a huge bird, but who knows? Who knows what it was?
Yep.
But anyway, we had a good time. But we got some a little bit warmer weather. It's going to be about 15 degrees warmer Saturday morning. I think that'll bode well for us. So I'm excited about it.
Yep. We've been watching birds in a food plot. I got a camera. Matter of fact, the camera just went off, and I was excited to look. It was deer this morning, but we got them. We hadn't messed with them. We haven't been in there.
Yeah.
We are going to go in there about lunchtime tomorrow to clean out where we're going to sit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to be in there tomorrow night after dark, and I'm going to go ahead and put that decoy up, and then we're going to get out of there so we can get back in there Saturday morning and not have to disturb anything. But these turkeys have put the mojo on me opening morning the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I said earlier, I'm not that mad at turkeys like some people are, but these two, I'm pretty mad at them.
Man, I was listening to the Gamekeeper podcast yesterday, and I think it was the guy, I'm going to look it up real quick. I think it was,
and I did see some, we got a guy up in Portal. He took his little 9-year-old daughter, and she killed a nice bird this weekend.
Okay.
Nice bird.
All right. I think this is the guy that was talking about it from Woodhaven Custom Calls.
Yeah.
He was saying, I think it was him. I wasn't, I'll be honest, I wasn't listening that intently, and I only listened for a few minutes. But he said that he has built a pine box like a coffin. So when he kills a bird, that's how that bird rides back to the house.
Oh, that's intense right there.
Yeah.
He said, I feel like I need to give this bird some
honoring
respect.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is funny.
I listened to part of that podcast, and something that I did not know, but they talk about if you have a lot of jakes, if you have a group of jakes, they will run off a mature gobbler. Not necessarily run off, but they feel like that gobbler understands that 1 against 4 or 5 is not good odds, so he'll hang back.
Yeah.
So, you get a group of jakes, and your odds of killing that mature gobbler go down.
Yeah. That's interesting.
How about that? Tuesday afternoon, about 1:45 or so in the afternoon, I had to go to a meeting, and I was on my way back, and just right on the edge of the road, just in this field that, farmer hadn't done anything with yet. It's just a bunch of weeds and stuff out there. There's 3 jakes just walking around. And then we go home, so it's 6:15 or so after we close the shop, and we head home, and 2 of them are still out there walking around.
Yeah.
Just in the broad daylight. But jakes are weird, man, how they'll do things. And I don't know. I don't want to say they're stupid. Like a 2-year-old buck, that deer's stupid. Yeah. They're just dumb. They have no idea, no care in the world. They'll walk right up to you, right under you when you're hunting and everything. And it's like, I don't know.
Why did you point at that deer?
It was convenient, but that might have been, one. But anyway, don't be.
But now 2-year-old turkeys, listen, if you gobble like a man, you're going to die like a man. That's what we say. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They gobble a lot. They're not real smart. They haven't been as educated yet.
Correct.
So yeah. But I was riding through town the other day. I'm in the city limits and glance over in a field, and there's at least one gobbler. There's, I guess, about 6 or 8 hens, and half the time I'm riding down the road with Onyx on my truck, You know, just like, okay, who owns that?
That's
Who
right.
owns that? Do I know them? Do they hunt?
I need to know them.
Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the turkey population is, I feel like it's really good. I mean, I honestly do.
No, so where we live now is my granddad's farm. So I grew up out there my whole life. And all through high school and college, there was no turkeys. I mean, none, zero. And now we have a tremendous turkey population in North Bullock County.
Yep. So Mossy Oak did that. Basically, it's a documentary. Last year, I think is when they came out with it. What's it called?
The Colonel and the Fox.
Yeah, The Colonel and the Fox.
Really
if
good.
you have not seen that, you need to go watch it. It is awesome. You know, they talk about the biology and how they reintroduced the turkey population and what it took to do that and everything. And then they just talk about two old timers that have been chasing these birds, you know, for decades. And just some of the coolest stories that you'll hear and a lot of really cool history.
yeah.
You know, once you don't understand this yet. Once you get to about 40, you have to either go really hard into smoking meat or become a history buff, like a World War II history buff.
I told you that.
So, but you don't understand it yet. But I'm going more towards like a hunting history buff.
There you go.
And also smoking meat. So it's kind of a
Smoking meat's better than smoking other things. So
yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't. Man, speaking of that, y'all want to hear some crazy crap?
Easter's on 420.
Why are you just sit over
speaking
there?
of smoking things,
Just sit over there and drink your liquid death and speak when you're asked to speak. All right.
I've got the maturity of a 16-year-old, evidently.
It's perfect. So there's this group of moms in St. Louis.
Don't go there. Do not go there.
Yeah. St. Louis is
I'm so sorry if
it
you
is
live
like
there.
it is like the butt crack of America right now. It's bad. Anyway, there's this group of moms that have put together this like social group, and it's called like Canna Moms or something like that. And they get together and they smoke marijuana, or they call it something cannabis. You know, I mean, in the video, it showed them smoking. It showed them eating, you know, like gummies and stuff like that.
Cheetos, things like that.
I mean, yeah, probably brownies and, you know, French fries and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, but they're saying that they're doing it as a release from parenting, you know, to overcome the stresses of parenting and everything. And the girl, she was on Laura Ingram's show last night. I don't watch the news that much because it's just, you know.
Only like every night.
No, I've gotten to where I don't. I did for a while. I'd watch it every night, but then it's, you know, it's just.
It's the same thing every night.
So they run like 6 shows back to back to back, and they're all talking about the exact same thing. Right. And it's just so frustrating. But when there's no baseball and there's no football, and I'm that stereotypical basketball guy, I love it when it's March Madness. Yeah. Outside of that, I don't care. I'm not watching NBA. I don't believe in the NBA and the crap that they do and everything. And but anyway,
professional sports in general.
Yeah. But I was watching that last night, and they were talking about that. And Laura said, "Well, do you have a church group that you're involved with there that you know would maybe be a healthier outlet than you know?" So she was comparing it to you know, moms that will drink wine at night. You know, you have the wine mom stereotype or whatever. But it's not the same, man. I mean, listen, I'm not saying, okay, you should drink a bottle of wine every night or anything like that. I don't think that any type of chemical should be a coping mechanism for us. Hang on, let me drink some more of this coffee. Anyway, but
This is just to stay awake during our own podcast.
Right. Yeah. Because it's so boring. Right. But to me, the issue with marijuana is that, or with cannabis or whatever we're supposed to call it now, is that, the hallucinating that comes from it and everything. And one of the points that Laura made last night, she's like, listen, this isn't the stuff that is available now. This isn't, your grandpa's weed. This isn't, what they were smoking at Woodstock or something. This is like pharmaceutical grade, knocking you on your tail kind of stuff. But when she asked the question, she said, is there a church group that you guys can be involved with that have a different outlet or whatever? And she's like, the lady said, we go to church every Sunday. In fact, we're talking about doing cannabis Bible study. And I was like, what in the world just happened? I mean, how would you even do that?
Yeah, that makes me think about that movie Young Guns when they're on the shrooms and they're like, I won't say the whole thing, but he's like, we're in the spirit world.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I've never seen that. But they're
tripping. Movie. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
It's an older movie, but yeah.
Hey, documentaries. Have you ever seen the documentary called My Life as a Turkey?
Yes.
That is a cool.
Yeah.
Where the guy takes a clutch of turkey eggs and hatches them and raises them up.
That was here in Georgia, right?
It was. It was down on the coast. A biologist named Joe Hutto, and it's a really cool documentary.
One of the only things that public broadcasting did that was good.
You're right.
Boy, they're under. They're under the microscope right now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a really cool show. That came out probably 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, it's really cool though. Look it up and take a look at that.
And it's a great story about wild animals, because one of the last turkeys that was left was a gobbler, and it actually turned on him. It attacked him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a wild animal. That's what he does. And he had raised this thing from a bitty.
Yeah.
So no, it's a cool show. Shoot.
Hmm.
I don't want no gobbler attacking me.
Heck no. So one of the guys that works for us, they went down. Let's get this straight. Week before last,
a lake in Florida.
Yeah, week before last, they went down to Central Florida and did some hunting. And one of the guys down there, so they're hunting Osceolas down there. And one of the guys, either in their group or a group that they met down there, killed a bird that had spurs that were almost 2 inches long.
Wow.
Could you, just think about that for a second.
It got him too.
Yeah, just got him on the hand when he picked him up or whatever. But, I guarantee you that hurt. Could you imagine getting attacked by that bird? No. Or what that bird could do to another gobbler? He'd kill another bird with a 2-inch spur. That's just crazy, man. And it was sharp too.
Yeah.
I've killed birds where, the spurs were big, 1.5-inch spurs or 1-inch spurs or something like that, but they were not sharp. They were rounded off or whatever. That thing, man, he had some sure enough spurs.
You brought it up, so I'm going to tell you this story.
Let's hear it.
So I got a friend. His name is Joey Scanlon. He lives in Griffin. And Joey had never been turkey hunting. So they had a lease down in Taylor County or somewhere down that way. So Joey and I go turkey hunting. This is the first of the season. It's still cool. And we get there. We hear nothing. We walk and we walk and we walk. It's one of those stories where we didn't hear anything. So we come up on a log dock. And I said, Joey, let's just sit down right here. And we'll just, every once in a while, we'll call, see what happens. So we're sitting there. And it's typical early season turkey. You done walked, you're tired. Now you sit down, that sun hits your face.
Uh-oh.
You start to take a little nap. All of a sudden, Joey shoots. And I jump up and look, and he runs, and a gobbler has come in completely silent. Joey kills his first turkey. Fast forward, I don't know, it's probably 8 or 9, maybe even 10 years later. Joey calls me one morning, and he said, Wes, what is the longest beard you've ever seen on a turkey? I said, gosh, Joey, probably 12 inches. He said, I killed one this morning that's a lot longer than 12 inches. Would you come over here and measure it? I said, no, I won't. If it's a lot longer than 12 inches, you need to call the National Wild Turkey Federation. So they did, and they have measurers just like Boone and Crockett do, you know. So this guy came out, and he measured this beard 17 5/8.
That's insane.
Now, he only had 2 strands left, but that made it official because Joey had shot him right in the chest as the bird was coming to him, and they went back to where he shot him and picked up more of his beard.
Dude,
And he is still in the record books. I don't know that it's the longest, but it's right in the top 5 of 17 5/8 inches. Shoot.
Wow.
that's crazy. I've seen, you know, birds that have 6 or 7 beards.
Oh, yeah.
I ain't ever seen one with, you know, almost an 18-inch beard.
crazy.
That is wow.
That's what I woke up to on Monday. Was a trail camera picture. I look at it. You're expecting a fox squirrel because we have fox squirrels on the property. No, a gobbler with a double beard, and another one just 120 yards from my house.
Yeah.
I was like, could have just done that yesterday.
Yep, that's right.
I felt kind of captive on Saturday because I couldn't hunt without my son. And so he kind of controlled the day, right? If he got tired of hunting, I was like, well, I'll go do, I can't do that, you know? And so the whole day was spent like me and my oldest were like begging him, like, hey, let's just keep hunting. Let's keep hunting. Let's keep hunting. So I actually made a video of him. He's just like dragging down the road, you know? So
How old is he?
He's 14,
Oh,
but we walk miles. I mean, you know, and we heard birds, but again, we couldn't do much with them. So, but
Well, Colby hits me up Friday night. Hey, Dad, it's Youth Day tomorrow. And we had already made our plans for this coming weekend, you know, because we got Colby and Tucker, my 2 boys. And we've already planned to set up on this food plot. I said, man, I can't just take you and just kick Tucker to the curb. Oh, come on. So he wanted to go. I didn't realize it was 16. I thought that the maximum age was 15.
Yeah, 16.
So if I'd have known that, we might have made a plan somewhere else. But
Yep.
we sat it out.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Y'all have a good time Saturday morning. So all 3 of you gonna go?
We're going.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll double up. Y'all have those birds, you know, being consistent coming in there.
I hope so.
Yeah, it'll be good. So, Wes, you and I hunted together. This has been 2 or 3 years ago. We hunted on a farm over close to you, and had birds gobbling good that whole morning. So we're kind of on the backside of a pasture, down on a there was a creek bottom back there, and then there was a pond back on the back end of it. So we get back there and we hear this bird gobbling, and we get set up, and we're, you know, calling to it, and we're both calling a little bit, not much, you know, just kind of going back and forth. And this bird is, I mean, he's responding, he's gobbling back, and we could tell that he was. It sounded like he was just going back and forth.
yeah,
We couldn't figure out what it was, why he was doing that, why he was hung up. But I mean, he'd gobble, and, you know, he'd sound like he was over here, and then he'd gobble again, and he's like 15 yards or 20 yards the other way. And finally, you know, we're sitting there, and Wes was sitting up in front of me, probably 10 yards in front of me or something. He said, "You hear that?" I was like, "No." I started to say, "Yeah, I heard it," but no, I didn't. And anyhow, this bird had flown over the top of this pond, and he got on the other side on the dam closest to us, and he gobbled one more time right there. You know, and I think Wes hit the call one time, and we're sitting there, and I mean, we're thinking, all right, he's about to pop out.
Yeah.
You know. And then he turns and goes completely back up this creek bottom, you know, so we take off trying to go around and get ahead of him and everything. That was one of the craziest hunts, though.
He was close when he came across that pond.
Oh yeah,
we couldn't see him, but I mean, he was close.
Yeah. But that was a really fun hunt that morning. But anyhow, one of the things that I have learned with turkey hunting is they are not forgiving. If you do something that doesn't sound just right, or if you do something that, I mean, it can be the smallest little thing, buddy, they are out of there. Yeah. They're gone. They are not forgiving at all. And that's something that you haven't gotten a chance to see yet, because your hunt last year, remember we killed those 2 birds and I said, dude, this may never, ever, ever happen again. I hope it does, but this may never happen. I mean, it was like, I couldn't have drawn it up any better. Yeah. There was nothing I could have done. There was nothing I would have changed about that hunt that morning. Nothing. Not a single thing.
I would have changed something.
What?
Just had some form of filming it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would have loved to have captured that, but
because that was cool.
Yeah.
So you say that. Let's go ahead and break this egg right here.
Mm-hmm.
That will probably never happen again hunting easterns. Every other species of bird are stupid.
I was going to say, that Easterns are definitely, like you watch the videos of, Osceolas or Meridian, and it's like, holy crap, like very different.
They're gobbling their head off at 3:00.
Yeah.
On the side
our
of the
group
mountain.
goes to Kansas. They go back and the same land that we bow hunt on, they go back and hunt turkeys. And if it's been a year, it ain't been many of them that they didn't all limit out, because they say if you get out of the truck and you hear one gobble,
he's coming. Yeah.
Roads, creeks, rivers, he's coming.
Yeah.
So if you're patient enough and sit there, they're coming.
I've never hunted anything but Easterns, but everybody you talk to that has, they just say that that's definitely the hardest turkey to kill.
Well, we have the opportunity to talk with hunters all over the country. We have folks that'll call and contact us about, whatever. They're having issues tuning their bow, or they want to know something about, how they can do their arrow setup, or they're ordering something from our online store or whatever. And I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody say, if you can kill an Eastern, you can kill anything.
That's right.
Because the way that those birds act compared to the way our birds act. So in Kansas, what are those? Merriams. Yeah. I mean, I've never been out there and hunted them. I've talked with a guy a lot in Oklahoma, and he has told me, he said, man, you'll be riding through. So they have huge pieces of public land out there that it's just farmland.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's BLM land. It might be, I'm not sure, but he said you could just ride through there. And, of course, this time of year, there'll be wheat fields. And he said, you'll ride through and there'll be, like a little bottom out in the wheat field. He said, you might see 30 birds and 75 or 80% of them are gobblers.
It's crazy.
He said, you can crawl through that wheat. They'll just stay right there. You can crawl through that wheat and go out there. You can go out there and grab one of them if you want to.
Yeah.
If you can slip up on him.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, you ain't never going to do that with an Eastern.
Well, and they say the same thing in Kansas. If you're riding down the road and you see turkeys in a place, in a field that you have permission to hunt, you just drive up there, park the truck, slip back down there and start calling, and they're coming.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Coming.
That's wild. It's almost like that with deer too, though. It seems like when you think about it, there's probably a reason there's not many hunting shows that video deer hunts in the Southeast. Like,
I'm going to tell you my feeling on that, and I
Let's hear
tell
it.
people this all the time.
Let's hear it.
Those deer in the Midwest are not near as spooky as our deer, because they've never seen a redneck get out of the truck, set his beer on the hood, and prop up with a 30-06 across, and shoot at him.
That's true. Now they have seen rednecks. Let's be honest about this. There are rednecks. I don't know. Are there? Yeah, there's rednecks in Illinois.
No, they are.
But I have a hard line. If you can ice fish in your state, you're not a Southerner. All right, that is absolutely where I draw the line.
You mean like holding a glass of iced tea and fishing?
No, no. I mean, putting your little shanty hut out on the ice.
Oh, like
Drilling a hole.
And drilling a hole and fishing. If you can do that,
sounds like death.
If you can do that, you're not. I mean, it sounds like it'd probably be fun, once, but I don't know.
You see these shows, especially these guys that are way up north, that have these little shanties built, and they go in there and they've got a generator and they've got TV and they got a heater going in there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no.
I get the Meat Eater emails. They did a story on a guy. He was ice fishing, and something when he drilled into the water, like a bunch of methane came into his little hut, and he had a heater, and it exploded. I mean, he got all tore up.
Oh my gosh,
Jeez, man.
That's terrible.
The whole thing just went up in flames.
But you talking about I think there's rednecks everywhere, but I would say we probably got a different level of redneck.
Well, on a serious note, if you get caught breaking a game law in Georgia, the penalty is not near as severe as it is if you get caught breaking a game law in Illinois or Kansas or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
They make it, well, when we were hunting in Illinois years and years and years ago, we duck hunted one morning and left the duck blind 8:30, threw everything in the back of the rental car, took off back to get ready to go deer hunting the rest of the day, and got pulled over for speeding. And we had set the shotgun in the back seat, and I mean, it's a felony offense because
Was it loaded?
yes,
Like in the mag tube?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
you have to have the gun
In a case.
in a case
Wow.
and the ammunition in the trunk.
Wow.
You can't even have it in the back seat with it.
That's like traveling in the airport or something, man.
Right.
It's
I
like-
mean, we had to go back up for court. I mean, it wasn't me. I didn't get charged with that, but the person that was charged had to go back up to court, and they charged him with a felony, put him on probation for 2 years, and as long as nothing happened in that 2 years, they removed the felony from his record. But
He had a felony on his record for 2
Yes.
years for having a gun in the back seat.
Yes.
So they're the same way with archery equipment. When we go up there, we have to take cases with us. Like even if we're in a side by side or something, it's got to be in a case.
Yeah.
Or all right, hang on. If you're in a side by side, if you don't have it in a case, you have to have a lock on the bow that keeps you from shooting it. And a lock could be just like a zip tie. Like we put zip ties on all the bows in here just because, you got to protect people from themselves sometimes. I can't tell you how many times we've had people come in, pick up a bow, and like try to draw it. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, like
know?
we'll be just working, like a busy Saturday or something. Here, bam!
Yeah.
Look over, it's like, oh no,
Yep.
that's not good.
Somebody will say, well, he just bought that.
Yep.
But-
wow.
yeah, we've definitely had that happen before.
so, yeah, no, the penalty for breaking game laws in Georgia is a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
I mean, you read the Hall of Shame in GON, and they get basically nothing.
Nothing.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, why is that, you think?
Because the judge used to do it too.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I might would just in a hypothetical situation, hunting over a baited duck hole with a game warden might have happened at some point.
Hypothetically.
Sure.
Not with me,
I
but
can see
maybe with
that
somebody I know. So
So I got a guy that used to work for me from down in Southwest Georgia, and his cousin was a game warden. All right. His cousin is a game warden, and he has gone out and just dressed, like he's hunting, and actually somehow, I guess it was on public land or something. I think it was on Lake Seminole. Hunted with this group of guys, and just they're sitting there hunting, and man, they're killing birds and everything, and then they get done, and then he starts writing tickets. He never told you. I'm not gonna say who it was, but you know him well.
That has to be illegal.
I mean,
No, listen.
That has to
We
be
were
something.
in Biomeda in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and we're in the flooded timber, and we're just calling ducks, and all of a sudden my buddy Yancey says, "Who is that?" And somebody had walked up in our group, and they're propped up on a tree on the other side of our hole just calling with us. And I said, I don't know, okay, it's fine. And, things settle down and the ducks are gone. And we didn't kill any. But the guy walks over and pulls his jacket open, and here's a badge. And he says, "Fellas, I need to see some license." And, and he checks us. But he had his call. He was walking around in there just checking people.
That's crazy, man.
Because
Undercover.
in Arkansas, you can't have
In Biomeda.
more. Okay.
Just
Well,
Biomeda.
more than a box
Yeah,
of
Well,
cigarettes,
not
right?
just Biomeda, but
The rules in
Biomeda.
Biomeda changed like the weather. This year you can have 25 shells again.
What?
Yeah, it went down to 15.
I thought it was 12.
No, it went to
It was
15, and now you can have 25 again. But they can be no larger than a number 2. So you can't shoot T's and BBs and stuff like that. So they check all that stuff. Now, another Arkansas story, talking about game wardens. We got checked one time, and we had shot geese, and the limit of white-fronted geese, speckled bellies, was 2 a person. And in shooting the geese, we had killed 1 too many geese. And we didn't try to hide it. We showed and talked to him, and he said, this is a quote now. He said, "Fellas, I understand." He said, "Because when I was young, I had a hard time counting turkeys." And he wrote us a ticket, and we paid the ticket. But that was from him.
That was
So,
it, yeah. When I was 16 years old, me and a buddy of mine went turkey hunting. We went straight out of deer season. Next time I used my shotgun was turkey season. I really did think I'd put the plug in my gun. We go in, we end up wading across a creek. I mean, it was one of the greatest turkey hunts I've ever been on, called in 2 birds. He killed one of them. We're walking out, and I remember we just heard the bushes tearing down, and we're like, what is going on? Well, 2 game wardens came running through the bushes and stopped us. And so they're like, "Let us see, your guns." And they start checking everything. They take my buddy's gun, shuck out the 3 shells. He's good. Take my gun. They start shucking out shells. And I swear, y'all, I did not do this on purpose. But when he got to that 3rd shell and it came out, and then he went to check the 4th, and a 4th shell flew out, it was like it was in slow motion, spinning in the air. And I'm like, what happened? And so I ended up getting a ticket, but it was so minimal. I mean, I don't think it was more than it wasn't more than $100, which that was a long time ago.
We're basically promoting just do illegal stuff. When
No,
you
hang
got
on.
A little extra cash.
We are not promoting doing illegal stuff. We are not, like right now. So our string company, we're looking for people to join our R&D team, our research and development team, where we're sending out strings to them, and we're sending them all over the country. And I we haven't set a cap on this because we want as many strings out there on as many bows as we possibly can with people shooting them. Whether it's somebody that's in target archery, like we just sent a set yesterday to a guy in southern Texas that shoots target archery. We sent a couple sets to a guy in Alabama that does primarily, we set up his target bow and his hunting bow. And so we have a questionnaire that people have to fill out. Well, one of those things on there is, have you ever been convicted or given a ticket for a wildlife violation? Because if you have, that's like no questions asked. You do not qualify.
Yeah.
Done. That's it. I'm drawing the line right there. And I'm doing that because, number one, I think it matters. I'm not asking people, how do you vote or any of that kind of stuff. But if you're not at least able to respect respect the laws, or listen, I get it if you make a mistake, like your friend getting a dang felony for having a gun in his back seat.
Yeah.
You know, well, come back to me 2 years from now when that's off your record, and we'll work together. You know, but golly, that's pretty crazy. That is pretty dang crazy, man. But yeah, so if you would be interested in doing that, and you know, it's not like you have to have some kind of big social media following or something like that. That's not what we're looking for. I mean, if you want to get the strings and post all about it on social media and all that kind of crap, you can if you want to. We are just looking for people to be testing our product, period, because we want to make sure we feel like the product that is being made by our string company is really good. We feel really confident in the process that we have of building everything, but we want it being used in a lot of different environments and getting feedback about it, you know, bringing the strings back in so we can go back over them after they've got a couple thousand shots through them and stuff like that. So we can really see how things are holding up on a wide, you know, array of bows and everything. So that's something you'd be interested in. Get in touch with us because it'll be good. All right. So speaking about, you know, I said earlier, turkeys are not very forgiving, right? So in everything that we get to go out and we get to chase, whether it's fishing, so probably the most forgiving thing that we're going to do is fish, right? Because all you're doing is you're trying to get that fish to, you know, certain times you're just trying to get a reaction bite, right?
Unless you're fishing in a stupid pond that barely has any fish in it.
Well, there's got to be fish in the barrel. I mean, there's got to be fish in the barrel. And there are fish in that barrel.
I don't know.
You just can't catch them.
You go try it. Go try it.
There's got to be fish in the barrel. But all right, so seriously, in all of our pursuits, there are things that, you know, you can get away with doing stuff wrong. Hunting whitetail in the Southeast, that's what we talked about. You know, they're, for whatever reason, they're super spooky. And I think it's hard to record, especially from a bow hunting standpoint in the Southeast. Man, we're hunting in really tight quarters.
Yeah, thick stuff.
You know, I think the guys at Seek One do a really good job with their recording and everything. Like their videos are they're really good
Really
now.
good.
When they first started, you know, it's anything.
I don't know.
All right, so here's one of the things that I'll say about that. If you're not embarrassed by, let's say you've been doing something for 10 years. If you don't look back and see what you did 10 years ago and you're not a little bit embarrassed by it, you waited too late to start. If you try to wait until you've got everything perfect, you know,
that's so true, man. That's so true.
I mean, think about, you know, and that's in anything. Now, I'm not saying, you know, go out and do something, and even if you don't know how. Like, I mean, if you're gonna be a brain surgeon, let's be good at that before we start cutting on somebody.
Perfect that a little more.
Let's be really good at that first, right?
Don't have to Google it.
No,
right?
yeah. Let's not pull up a YouTube video in the middle of a hip replacement. That would make me uncomfortable.
And if I was any kind of doctor, I mean, whatever. I'm not that smart, so it wouldn't be a surgeon. But any kind of doctor, I'd be like, on my desk, I'd have Doctor for Dummies just for my patients to see. That's funny.
Would be, yes.
You ever seen a video of a hip replacement surgery?
I actually have.
No.
Stacy, my wife, the other night, she was complaining that her hip was hurting. And so randomly, I don't know, came across this video of a hip replacement, and it looked like they were changing the axles on a 1972 Ford truck. Sledgehammers and sawzalls. And I sent that to her, and I said, how's your hip feel? She said, not that bad.
Yeah, so a friend of ours is actually about to have full hip replacement. And so I was looking into it, and I found like this... like almost like a computer rendering of it. You know, it's not an actual person, but it shows everything that has to happen. Because I was curious about, you know, what's this recovery going to be like or whatever. Man, it's gonna be rough.
Well, the surgery is actually rough, but if they do that surgery on you starting at 7:00 in the morning, by 5:00 that afternoon, your butt's up walking up and down the halls of the hospital. I mean. the recovery is painful, but it's not near as long as it used to be, and they have you up moving right away.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that they've learned with this stuff is that, I mean, I can remember somebody having, like a knee replacement or something like that. Like my granny had a knee replacement surgery 30 or 40 years ago. And I can remember her being, like they said, don't walk, don't do this, don't do that. And I think it affects, the recovery time, right?
Sure
I mean, if you're not using something, it's just making it worse. But anyway,
Mom had open heart surgery, and they had her up same day.
Yeah, that used to be like you're in the hospital 2 weeks or something. I remember my granddaddy having it he had two in the 80s, and it was crazy. Like, I mean, the second one, they gave him like a 30% chance of survival, and now it's almost like a day surgery. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
That's wild. That's wild, man. All right, so I'll go back to what I was saying. So we've got all these different pursuits that we can get into, and some things are more forgiving than others. Turkey hunting is going to be probably really close to the top of the list of not very forgiving, right? You gotta get it right, or you're just, at least Easterns.
Yeah, for Easterns.
Is what we've talked about. So it makes me think about forgiveness. And it's top of mind right now because I'm teaching on that this weekend. I'm starting a series talking about the 7 sayings of Christ on the cross. And the first one that we're looking at is where Jesus, he's nailed to the cross, and one of the first thing he says is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Right? So one of the questions I wanted to ask this morning was, and that is specifically the text that I'm looking at is Luke 23:34. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments, which was a fulfillment of a prophecy when that took place. So who is the most forgiving person that you know?
Other than Jesus?
Oh man, I was about to say
No.
Sunday school answer.
The most forgiving, not Christianese. That's not what we're looking for this morning. Who's the most forgiving person that you know?
My wife.
Oh man, there it is. That's good. Like that.
If not,
no, I'm just giving you a hard time. That's good.
No, seriously. Like
if you're married, you need to say your wife.
No, like I'm 100% serious. Like if she weren't, then. Like, I'd have been kicked to the curb a long time ago.
Yeah. All right. Besides your wife, all right, somebody that you're not in a covenant relationship with, right? Because that covenant that we have with our spouses, that covers a lot of sin. That covers a lot of mistakes, right? We're in a covenant relationship. We're in this together. I'm going to forgive her. She's going to forgive me. She has to forgive me a whole lot more than I have to forgive her, blah, 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 right? Because I'm an idiot. She's not. I'm ugly. She's beautiful, all that kind of stuff, right?
She's smart. I'm dumb.
Yeah, she's smart. I'm dumb. She can talk. I can't. She can write. I can, anyway, the whole spectrum, the whole gamut. But, all right, outside of our covenant relationship with our wives, who's the most forgiving person that you know? Yeah, the first person that came to my mind is a friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He's gone now. He's transitioned. He's graduated to glory. So I'm like, well, I gotta have somebody else, right? So I go through and I start thinking, and I was like, first I got frustrated because I was like, man, why is this so hard?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for me to say who's the most forgiving person? Because listen, if somebody is my friend, they are a forgiving person. Westchester is a forgiving person because I've done stupid stuff in his presence and he's forgiven me for it. And maybe it's because he's like that judge that says, well, I've done that before too. It's okay.
Absolutely.
But seriously, all right, so let's start. I want to look at it from that angle first. Let's identify who's the most forgiving person. And it might be your mama or it might be your granddaddy or whoever it is, but who is that person that's the most forgiving person that you know? Like Dub, when I asked the question last night, or his mama asked the question, I'm sitting over there on the couch, kind of halfway watching baseball, and she asked the question because it was something we talked about yesterday. Yeah, whatever. Well, but I heard your response, and he said, evidently he pointed at me, and she said, "You need to know more people." But I'll forgive her for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I'm very forgiving.
Yeah. I was going to say you're probably the most forgiving. I'm kidding.
I don't know.
Well, just off the cuff, when you ask that, it made me think, why am I not the most forgiving person?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that's a logical. I think that there's a convicting side to that question, right? And so my follow-up question to that is, how do we become that person that when somebody else is asked that question, we're the person that they think of?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the challenge is, for me, it's easier to forgive or let things go than it is to trust again.
Well, forgiveness. Sense. All right. So
and it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's not, I don't want to get too far into the weeds. Forgiveness is not necessarily restoration. Right. So let's say, and we can look at this in extremes, or we can look at this in very simple things, but let's look at it in extremes. Okay. What was the name of that movie we watched? The Forge. If you have not seen The Forge, you need to watch it. It is a, what is the name of the group? Kendrick Brothers movie. It is a really, really good movie. It ought to be a convicting movie for every man that watches it, and women too, but especially for men. It's really geared towards men and how we should be doing things, intentionally doing things to build each other up and being diligent about our relationships with other guys and stuff like that. And that's something we've talked about, on the podcast before. But in that movie, there's an older couple that they kind of take on this young man to disciple him and to help him really become a man. His dad wasn't really involved in his life or anything. And so he goes over to their house one day, and just the wife is there. The husband was gone doing something, or maybe he was upstairs changing or something like that. So he goes in and he's going over to eat supper with him, and he sees a picture of a young man, like up on the mantle or something like that. And he said, "Oh, is this your son?" And she said, "Yeah, we lost him, several years ago, whatever, however the story goes. Watch the movie. I'm not doing a good job telling the story about that. But, their son was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver. All right. And, so the story goes on, the movie goes on or whatever. And, they had this group of men that they called the Forge, where they would get together once a month and they'd have a meal together and they'd talk about what was going on in their lives, and they'd pray for each other, and they'd share, struggles that they were having where something didn't go the way they wanted it to, or they'd share success about, whatever was going on. And regardless of what it was, they were looking for God in all of it. If something wasn't going right, they're looking for God in it. If something is going right, they're looking for God in that, right? Which I think is a good and healthy and proper way to do something. And then so he's talking to one of the guys that's there at the Forge, and he says, "Well, how do you know, whatever the kind of patriarch guy, how do you know him?" And he said, "Well, I'm the first guy that he came and discipled, and he, helped me pull me out of things or whatever." And he said, "Well, how did you meet him?" And he actually met him. The guy came and visited him while he was in prison. He went to prison for killing his son. And now they're in this great relationship.
Yeah.
And it's like, So I started to say that was a long way of saying, forgiveness doesn't always mean restoration. But in some cases it does. But it wasn't necessarily, I guess that is still restoration. Even though he didn't have a relationship with this guy before, man, he had every reason to hate that guy.
Sure.
Right? Because if somebody out of negligence, it doesn't have to be drunk driving or something, but if somebody out of negligence were to kill my son today or kill your son today or kill one of your sons today, how would we respond to that? How would we respond to that? If somebody came in my shop today and shot and killed my son, just out of stupidity, how would I respond to that? In the moment, it would not be good.
Yeah.
In the moment, I would potentially shoot and kill that person if that were to happen, because that would be, that would probably be my response. And there are tools in this shop for a response to a situation like that. That can happen very quickly. So think twice before you come in this shop trying to act stupid. Okay. So anyway, but how would we respond in a situation like that? And like I said, that is an extreme. Let's look at a scenario that's not as extreme. Somebody said something bad about you, like the gossip that you talked about before, where somebody, said just deplorable things about you. How do you respond to that?
Yeah.
How do you forgive that person? And to what extent do you go to offer that forgiveness? So that's what I want to talk about.
I can tell you that age has helped me a lot. I'm not as young and dumb as I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even say, I'd like to say it's forgiveness, but it's more like leave it alone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just gets to where it doesn't bother you.
Well,
as
I'm
much.
not looking for vengeance.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, for me, it's more about, I know who I am in Christ, so people saying stuff, like, I don't take it as much as an offense as I used to.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
So that helps some, but it's the bigger things, I guess, that I have a harder time forgiving.
Okay.
But typically it's over time. And I tell people that a lot. Forgiveness is not always instantaneous. Sometimes forgiveness is a process.
Sure.
Where
Absolutely.
Well, I think forgiveness is a process.
Sure.
But I think it is. I don't think it happens on accident.
No, it has to be intentional. And usually I think it has to happen through God's grace, so much more than our willpower. But we have to make a choice to press into God for that ability to forgive. Scripture is really clear. Like, we're called to forgive just as He's forgiven us.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make it easy.
It's interesting. As I've gone through and prepared for this study, one of the things that I've looked at is that the idea, and I almost don't want to say this because I haven't really dug into it that deeply yet, but we can dig into it together a little bit. One of the things that it says, forgive your brother 70 times 7, right? So basically over and over and over and over again, forgive your brother. And that means I need to forgive you and I need to forgive you. But it says it's a conditional forgiveness. It says, if he repents, forgive him, right? If he repents, if he acknowledges, man, I screwed up, I'm not going to let this happen again. All right. Forgive him and move on.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in those situations where that doesn't happen, where that person doesn't say, you know what, I made a mistake. I did wrong. I acted wrongly, whatever. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. If they don't do that, then what do you do? You know, or do we still need to forgive that person? Do we still need to find a way to, you know, like Wes, like you talked about, like it doesn't, I'm not seeking vengeance on this and everything, or kind of where do we sit on that? What do you think? You can talk too. Drink some more of that liquid death so you'll wake up a little bit.
I don't know what he had last week.
Oh man, you drink all of it?
It's water.
It's liquid. Okay, it's liquid death water. Water death.
It doesn't help
Water
me wake
death.
up.
It doesn't help you wake up?
No.
20 calories, 4 grams sugar. What does it have in it?
Nothing.
It's just water?
It's marketing.
Freaking water.
You paid $8 for this?
No. I paid $8 for 3 of them.
No. Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And people say eggs and gas are expensive.
So ask the question again, John.
Right here.
Ask the question one more time.
I forgot it.
It's something
What
to do with forgiveness.
about the person?
Oh, that's unrepentant.
Yes.
So I heard somebody say this one time, and again, I'm terrible at remembering who
If you rent it for long enough, you can just say it's
Yeah.
yours.
But this is 100% not mine, and you'll know by the fact that it is a good saying. But the saying is that unforgiveness and not forgiving somebody is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Yeah. That's good.
And so to me, whether they are repentant or not, I mean, if you hold on to it, it's just killing you on the inside. And so many times, how many times have we maybe laid awake at night or driven down the road thinking about a situation, and it's robbing us of joy, it's robbing us of life, and the other person, they're sleeping like a baby.
Oh,
They
man.
don't care. They're and we're the ones that are just stewing over it, and it's killing us, but they're not affected by it. And it's almost like sometimes we feel like if we hold on to it, it affects them. But so many times they don't care.
They're just moving on with life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it could be as simple as somebody cutting you off in traffic. You know, and you get mad, blah, 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 you know, and it's like, and it's like, they don't even realize,
Yeah.
you know, they're living rent free in your mind,
Yeah.
and they're going on with their day. They didn't intentionally cut you off, right? I mean, maybe sometimes they did. I don't know, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. They didn't intentionally cut you off. It just happened. But man, it made your blood boil, right? You got so frustrated, and you didn't take it to the point that you're like going up to them and, you know, following them wherever they're going and getting out saying, "Hey, what's wrong with you, man?" You know, I mean, I've never done that before. Wes, have you done that before? Okay. All right.
No, the one, and when my wife hears this, she's gonna just stick it in and twist that knife up. When you saw the same sign I saw a mile back that says right lane closed in 1 mile,
Yeah.
and you try to get all the way to the front, and then you want me to let you in,
Yeah. Yeah.
that gets me, man.
And the surest way for me not to get over in the right lane is to get on my bumper. Like, if you get on my bumper and I'm passing somebody and you're just right up on me, like, not moving. Just not moving. You're going to have to go
So
around.
what I'm hearing is where y'all need prayer is when you're driving.
We're petty.
Hey, I'm just telling you, man, that makes me so aggravated. And, you know, I think drivers in general, we're just getting worse. I don't know if it's because we're so distracted, but it seems like that's happening. So, yeah, y'all can pray for me for road rage.
What is going on?
I saw somebody
Yeah.
cross from the Dunkin' parking lot over there on Fair Road all the way over into the turn lane. I mean, they missed me by like 5 feet. And the cool thing about the truck I drive is I can block a lot of people with that because it's huge.
You ought to drive the dog truck, buddy. Drive the dog truck.
Oh my gosh.
No, we're in such a hurry.
Yeah.
We are in such a hurry to get where we're going
especially college students.
that everybody just, and I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I am. I'm guilty
Absolutely.
of it. And we talked this morning, coming through Statesboro this morning at 6:30. It was like a colony of ants. People
Really?
were everywhere.
Yeah, so I stay pretty much on the outside. I'm on the outside of what I call the loop.
Yep.
But this little intersection right down here, they've fixed it. They've done some stuff to change the timing of the lights and stuff, which has made it better. But man, that little intersection can get so backed up.
Try to go that way on Sunday morning about
Go that way about 1 o'clock.
Yeah, or 5 o'clock.
Or
Well, I
12:30
guess
or so
anytime, it
when
sounds
you
like.
let your crew out, man, it's ridiculous.
When we were moving,
yeah.
we were coming from our house to here on a Sunday. It took us 7 lights
Yeah.
to go through.
Yeah.
That was before they fixed the timing.
It's
It was
bad.
before they put in the turn lane and stuff on the other side. But yeah, it was
That's definitely for me like one of those things where it just gets all over.
because they put
me,
that
man.
horn in such a convenient spot. You just,
yeah. All right, so we've identified at least an area that, we need to work on. And I heard somebody a couple weeks ago. He said that he was in such a hurry and was so upset that there was this accident and it bagged up a bunch of traffic. And, he's going through and he finally gets up and he sees the accident and everything. And he's like, finally, good grief, finally got past this. Well, later in the day, he was like, man, I didn't even stop and pray for those people.
Yeah.
Somebody was hurt. There was 2 ambulances out there. It was not a good situation. And he's like, I didn't even stop and pray for those people. What is wrong with me? And I think, yeah, absolutely. We need to stop and do that. So I'll tell you, several years ago in our first location, before we ever expanded to take up the whole building at our first location and everything, we had a young man break in and steal a bunch of crossbows. And let me tell you, he knew not what he did, right? Because let's say you break into Dunham's and steal some crossbows, 4 or 5 crossbows. Well, you've stolen, $1,500 worth of stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, he got off with like 27 grand in crossbows. Because some of these crossbows we have in here, I mean, they're $3,500, $4,500. It doesn't take long to add up when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So our alarm goes off. My phone goes off, and it's an alert from the alarm system. And I pull it up, and I'm like, "What's going on?" It says glass break and motion sensors, and I'm like, "This ain't good," So I pull up, unlock my phone, and I pull up the cameras, and I look, and sure enough, there's a dude in the store. And that store was only, 5 minutes from our house. So I just throw some shoes on and boom, I'm out the door. And get up there and he's gone. He was in the store for like 62 seconds.
Wow.
From the time he broke the glass to the time he walked back out the door, he was in there for 62 seconds.
and this ain't the first time he'd done it.
No. And he was in the store longer because, we will at times will reorganize the store. All the guys that work for me hate it. They're like, oh my gosh, Mr. John's at it again. He wants to change stuff up. I'm not doing it for a security standpoint. I'm doing it, because from a retail standpoint, people will come in and they get into a habit of, okay, I'm going to walk this way. I'm going to go over, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to, speak to the guys and, grab some arrows, and then I'm going to make my way out. Well, if we'll reorganize things, it'll cause people to say, oh, I didn't know you had this.
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
I'm not trying to trick somebody into buying something. I just,
Want
we're
them to
just
see
trying to
it.
position things so people will see it. And sometimes just simply moving it will cause somebody to see it. Whether they buy it or not, they may go and say, oh, I saw that at Bow Trader the other day. Why don't you go check that out? Anyway, so when he came in the store, he went to where the crossbows used to be. Well, I mean, you could see him plain as day. There was like 4 different cameras looking at him. And he went over to where the crossbows used to be, and he freaked out because they weren't there anymore. So then he looks around the store. It was a very small store. It was like 1,100 square feet is what we started out with. So he looks and he sees the crossbows. He runs over, grabs like 6 crossbows somehow, and goes running out the store. He didn't even open the door. He just went, under the handle where he had broken the glass. And you know, he's gone 62 seconds or 68 seconds or something like that. And so I go up there, and then the police shows up a little bit later, like, you know, a couple minutes after I got there. I'm already in the store, you know, walking around like, where the heck's this guy at? You know, I don't know what I'm going to do. I didn't, you know, I talk about that forgiveness thing and you know, what would happen in a situation like that. I'm not killing somebody or something like that for somebody stealing something. Yeah. Listen, if you're going to steal something, steal it. I got you on camera. We're going to pursue you. But if you're going to threaten life, dude, you got problems, right? That's the way I look at it. If you're going to steal something, steal something. If you're going to threaten life, I'm coming back at you. And it ain't going to be pretty, and I'm not going to fight fair, period.
Yeah. If you didn't know my dad back in high school, obviously I didn't, but I've heard stories. He might turn back into his old self. That's not good. You don't want that.
The old is gone. The new is here.
Yep. Jesus.
Until it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want that.
You don't want somebody that can bench 500 pounds mad at you.
Anyway. So I got some stuff to block up the door. I mean, I think I used cardboard that night. Or no. I did. I had a piece of like plywood or something, and I screwed it up to the door, you know, so it was, you know, I mean, what are the chances of somebody breaking in again at this point? So we just did that, turned the alarm system back on, talked with the police officer, you know, and that was pretty much it. And I went home. I get home and everybody's up, you know, everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? You know, and I go in there. I think you were up sitting in the living room with your mom. Yeah. I went in there and, you know, I'm upset, you know, I'm like, you know, you feel violated when something like that happens. Right. You know, at best you feel violated. At worst, you're like, I'm gonna kill this guy. Yeah. You know, and I went in there and I, you know, told them what happened. And I said, guys, you know what? We need to pray for this guy right now. Cause I looked at it on the camera and you could tell it was a young guy. I said, we need to pray for this guy right now because he is making a terrible choice in his life. He's young and he's starting out on the wrong foot. Yeah. And we stopped, and I don't know if Allie was up or not, but I know you and your mom were up, and we sat right there in the living room. I sat on the table and y'all were sitting, you know, in the chair and on the couch, and we prayed for that young man right there and prayed that number one, that I wouldn't let anger take root in my heart and my soul towards this person. Yes, I wanted justice, and I wanted, you know, the situation to be corrected, and I wanted him to have a consequence for what he did, because consequences help us learn. Right. Yeah. But I didn't wish bad towards him. You know, I wanted there to be restoration, and I wanted him to get put back on the right track, or maybe get on the right track for the first time. I don't know. You know, long story short, we never got any kind of leads or anything. The outside camera was not functioning properly. It was, you know, we live in South Georgia, a lot of humidity. Yeah. The lens was fogged up. Couldn't see his license plate or anything. We could see what kind of car it was, but you know, Statesboro PD chased it a little bit, and nothing was there. So anyhow, it was just a crazy situation. Yeah. But I don't know why that was my response. You know, I don't want to sit here and say, man, I'm so holy, you know, I prayed for this guy. I didn't want to. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I wanted to pinch that dude's head off in the moment. I was pretty upset, you know. Yeah. But I realized the vertical side of it was, man, he's making some pretty critical mistakes. And I really don't want to see that for anybody. So that is just a experience that I had where, you know, I was faced with a choice, basically, is the way that I look at that. So, but then just like you guys, somebody will cut me off, or I'll get frustrated, you know, driving on the interstate on I-16. It's always I-16 for some reason. And it's like, you know, why these people drive like this? How do they even have a driver's license? I think once you get to a certain age, you need to have to retake your test every few years.
Yeah.
Like legit,
For sure.
not just when you're 16. You need to retake it when you're 21, right? And make sure that you hadn't done something to kill all your brain cells between 16 and 21 and can still drive.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at all. So yesterday, we get to the school where we're umpiring baseball, and me and my partner park away from the field. And as we're getting dressed, this young girl comes and parks, just blocks everybody in. I mean, she could see where we were parked, and there were some other trucks parked back there, but she parked right in the middle of the road and blocked everybody in. And I looked at my partner and I said, did she do that for self-convenience? Because she didn't think about anybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens a lot of times. I got to get where I'm going. I'm going to cut. I got to get in that fast lane and cut this. They don't think about
Anybody else
but themselves. And you know what? I've caught myself doing that.
Yeah, we have that happen in our people leaving after service. If it's a crowded Sunday, and I mean, we've had people swerve at our parking attendants that are serving. We've had people flick them off, cuss at them. Absolutely, man.
Good grief.
And that's when I get to have fun the next Sunday with just yelling at people. But anyway.
Whoever's driving that black Tacoma,
yeah,
you need to come up here to the front.
Yeah. But seriously, I mean, people are that we think about ourselves. I mean, it goes back to that same thing of typically who's the first person you think about in the morning when you wake up. It's usually what you have to do, or you know what I mean. And I think too, the toughest thing to forgive, somebody pulls that in front of you, it makes you mad, but it's not like you dwell on it for days. I think the toughest things to forgive are relational, those relational things where you put trust in somebody and they break that trust, or they do something that hurts you, or those are the ones that are to me, much more difficult to forgive. And those sting the most. When you have people in your life that you tell you that they love you and tell you that, and then turn around and, something happens and they're gone and that relationship's over pretty much. Those are the harder things to me. And I talk to a lot of people who maybe have gone through bad marriages, whatever it might be, or someone is, molested them, or something that's a very serious thing. And they're like, how am I supposed to forgive this person? And I think, again, that's where I think it comes back to a process, because I think even guilt comes with not being able to forgive. I know I should forgive, but I can't. I cannot forgive this person for what they did to me, and something like that. And, that's where I just encourage them that, hey, it's a process. Ask the Lord to help you, because, talk to other people about it as much as you can, but it's definitely challenging, to be able to forgive those serious offenses like that. And a lot of people really struggle with that.
Especially when the other person sees none of it.
Yeah. Or they turn it back on you.
You and I had a situation with a person who they could care less. It was all about them. No matter what you've done for them in the past, how much you've done for them, it was all about them.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that it was tough for me, but I have grown from that experience.
Right.
And it has basically changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the way I look at things and the way I go about things now from that one person, and they still have no clue.
Yeah.
No clue.
I think the other thing too that I have to remember is at some point, and more than one point, I've been the offender.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
Well,
so
listen, we probably offend somebody every day.
and
We've probably said something during this hour and 18 minutes we've been sitting here that has offended somebody.
yeah,
Not intentionally.
no,
Right. But I mean, it doesn't matter if it was intentional or not.
right, and then it comes back to, am I willing to offer the same grace that I would want them to offer me?
Yep.
And I mean, that stuff's not easy, man. That's the stuff that for me, and I think for all of us who are believers, we have to really lean into God for.
Well, because it's not natural. It's not a natural part of our flesh to say, I'm going to give grace to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, that's when we get to this point where we say we're going to live on our own morality and all this kind of stuff. We don't, in and of ourselves, we don't have morality.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not naturally just ingrained in who we are. Right. I mean, the Bible says there are none good, no, not one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It says all have sinned and fall short. So we have to at some point acknowledge that and acknowledge that there is a need for a Savior for us. So let's go back to that text that I looked at. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, they knew that they had nailed Jesus, the God-man. All right, they knew he had been nailed to the cross. They knew he had been crucified. They had called for him to be crucified. They'd called for this terrible, wretched death. And I know you got to go in 4 minutes, so we're going to wrap this up. They knew that. They knew the physical thing that they had done, but they did not understand. They did not understand that they had nailed the God-man to the cross. They thought they nailed a lunatic to the cross.
Yeah.
Right? And so Jesus was praying to the Father to forgive them for what they had truly done, because they didn't see it.
That's right.
They had no idea. They had no idea what they had really done. Right. So, and we talk about, you know, like the situation that you were talking about, that guy, he thinks he is justified. He's right. And the way he was behaving was okay. And, you know, buddy, I was pretty quick to tell him, listen, I don't know if this is how you treat everybody or if this is the way that you behave, but I can tell you right now, we're not going to be doing business together. Like it will not happen again.
Yeah.
You know, I don't wish bad for you. I don't want you to lose your business or anything like that. But I'm telling you, if this is the way that you're acting all the time, buddy, that the other foot is going to drop at some point.
Sure.
You know, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But anyway, and it was over something that was so stupid and simple. I mean, good grief. That was the crazy part to me. I you know, whenever the first interaction happened, I sent Wes a message, and I'm like, hey, is this guy for real?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, and he was for real. I mean, because it went on and on and on. And I was finally like, nah, we're done. We're good.
Yeah.
I want. There's a group called Old 60, and they have a song. It's called Brother Joe. I want you to go listen to that song and listen to the lyrics. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story, and I'm not going to tell you how it goes, but I sent that song to a preacher friend of mine, and I said, I just want you to listen to it. And he texted me back, and he said, man, that was powerful. But it's about forgiveness, and it's about the way the guy handled forgiveness. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There you
Just go and listen to that.
Stuff.
All right, there's your homework. Look up the group Old 60 and listen to the song Brother Joe. I'm sure it's on Spotify or Apple Music or something like that. But all right, we're gonna wrap it up. Brandon's got a meeting he's got to get to, so we're gonna kill it for today. And it's a good conversation, guys. It's you know when you get into it and you really start diving into this stuff, and we always get to tie it into, you know, our sporting adventures, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all connected.
Yeah.
You know, we look at something that's unforgiving, like a turkey, and then we look at ourselves and we're like, man, we're just a bunch of stupid turkeys.
Yeah.
Do you think the turkey knows he's not forgiving?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, the turkey is just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
That's in the reality of it. An animal is just trying to stay alive, period. That's it. You know? So, and he's trying to make babies.
Yeah.
The end. That's the way animals
Period.
work. You know, that's the biggest difference between humans and animals.
Yeah.
They have a pretty limited mindset, and we have this huge sweeping ability to have very complex thoughts and emotions and all this kind of stuff. Regardless of what Disney or Pixar or whatever it is tells you, that ain't the way animals work.
Yeah.
That's not the way they work. So
Sorry, your dog doesn't love you.
yeah, and he ain't gonna be in heaven with you. My bad. All right. We gone. Hit the button. Let's go. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed listening. Hey, reach out to us and let us know what you want to hear about. Join the conversation online. Hop over on your favorite social channel and give us some comments. Shoot us an email. You can email us at podcast@bowtreader.com. That's BOWTREADER.com. We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear about maybe if you want to come join us on the podcast or any kind of topics that you want us to cover, regardless of what it is. If it's hunting related, something that's specific to bows or arrows, new gear, old gear, if you got any kind of spiritual questions, anything about your faith that you're interested in, reach out to us and let us know. We'd love to cover it for you. And thank you again so much for listening. God bless you.